Alright, and we are back with the challenge series here for Tier B of, well, second out of 7 tiers. I fixed the problems that kept occurring with the point standings, and also changed the spelling of Darius's name, because I was doing it wrong. So Tier B cars are slightly faster than A, and there are some different faces around as a result of that. Starting with Riley Blanchard, making her first appearance in the Corvette Stingray. Likewise, Eric Wojciechowski is also making his first appearance in a Ferrari 288 GTO. Taylor's back, this time in a Lotus Exige. Gina is also back in a Mazda RX-7 still, but this one has got some upgrades. Thomas O'Reilly, a 55-year-old Scottish man, is here in a Shelby Cobra. Natsuki is driving the rally kit for the 1996 Toyota Celica, I think. 96. Darius is back, this time in a Time Attack version of the Toyota Supra. Same thing going for Akira. Another new driver, Dedrick Schwartz, has arrived in a 930 model Porsche 911 Carrera. Thrasher is also in a Cobra. Another new driver, Travis Wild, driving another Porsche 911. John Garrison is driving a second Chevrolet Corvette. And we have Yoshiro Casquette, who is driving an Alfa Romeo 4C. Isabella Flynn returns again, also with the Lotus Exige, just like Taylor. And finally, Stephanie Kaiser is driving a third Porsche Carrera RSR. Now the points system is correct. It is 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the top 10 now get points rather than the top 8. And this championship is 12 rounds compared to the original 10. So this would be split into 3 episodes of 4 races rather than 2 5-episode races, because these races should be a bit longer as the lap counts are typically higher. Let us begin at the Nürburgring GP. Previous championship is now the first race of this one. We got the 2 Cobras on opposite sides of the starting grid, and the 2 Stingrays are on the same row. Now the Shelby Cobra has a lot of acceleration, so it'll be hard to pass out of corners. To effectively pass it, you'd have to either have really good straight line speed, somehow manage to equal its acceleration, or have really good handling and catch it off guard during a tight corner. I just had Funyuns, so I'll be clearing my throat a little bit throughout the first couple of races, probably. As Stephanie immediately very aggressive under braking. As Akira's branding for this event in his Time Attack Supra is basically a giant reference to the old Castrol Supras of the late 90s that you'd find on, well, pretty much any Gran Turismo game. Alright, was we're about to try and pass on the outside, you're better off just trying to use your acceleration out of the corner. And you can see the acceleration's keeping him right there despite how terrible his exit was. but the RSR is going to have better cornering grip. Especially so, especially so for this Supra, as O'Reilly misses the corner and Akira gets a happy birthday. Gina is up a place, and Natsuki had to start to forget. She's already down 4 places, and looking at that rear bumper, popping up damage she might have been run into. As Riley Blanchard overtakes that 4C for should be 8th place. Taylor is up 3 from where she started in his Ferrari, but that Ferrari has much more horsepower than this little Lotus does. It's all pretty close for the top 3, although the poor cornering of the Cobra is going to get that Supra and that Porsche some distance. Yoshiro, the 4C I think might be the weakest vehicle in this tier. It has okay handling, but even still that handling is nothing compared to the Supra or that. That is the Supra, or the Supra or the Corvette. And its power is not really much. This may be the second weakest. It's got really good cornering being a rally car and really good acceleration, but its top end is pitiful. Akira is still applying the pressure to Stephanie in the lead. He's going to do more than pressure. He has to kind of pass her if he wants to win. He gets close in the corners, but that Porsche has a lot of acceleration, and doing that isn't going to help his chances. I think Taylor is faster than the Ferrari, but the Ferrari's got enough horsepower to keep him ahead and prevent Taylor from tracking down the top 3. Her best bet is to catch him lacking either into the chicane at the end of the track or the first turn. As now Natsuki is down into last place. The vehicle also suffers from turbo lag and very short gear ratios. Kira still firmly fixtured on that car's back bumper. Does he try something? No. Akira is too calculative to try just throwing it in there and seeing what happens. Speaking of which, Dedrick is going to do precisely that on Taylor and achieve nothing. Archer up 3 in his Cobra, but I don't think he's got enough race time to get up to anybody else. Akira is the fastest man on track right now. These top 3 are running pretty even lap times. But I just kind of have to wonder, is Dedrick is really off track. Taylor's gonna catch him lacking. Does she keep it on the outside of the next turn though and make the pass easily? Day late and dollar short, but that is her still up 1 place. But I sincerely think the Lotus could have been higher if she didn't have to spend so long passing the GTO. 2 Corvettes are fighting, as now a different Lotus attempts to pass Schwartz to no avail. Riley has a run on Isabella. Does she take it? Oh, she's gonna try it. The Corvette already has the power advantage, and the Lotus putting themselves on the curb is going to spell another position for Riley. The rest of Taylor's competitors ahead of her aren't even in her line of sight, so... Akira has to try something now. He has no more corners to go after this, but he doesn't have enough of a run, and he will settle for second, I'm pretty sure. O'Reilly hangs on well for third. Taylor should take fourth. Will anything happen back here? Now Isabella's gonna go back for eighth. Barely giving Darius any space on the racetrack, but even still, just doesn't make it. Eric holds fifth. Riley only manages seventh, which is still quite impressive from starting 12th on the grid. Thrasher relegated to 0 points, as is Gina, due to their starting positions. Okay, that aggression's a little bit late now, Thrasher. Says you can now see the top 10 will score in every race, so only 5 people get sent home dejected. And, you know, just the shuffling of qualifying grid should make it easier for every driver to score several points apiece. On to Barcelona. Trust me, the full hairpin will come later as we get better, more equipped vehicles. Gina will take pole position. Thrasher still getting no luck, starting now 14th. And the Lotuses will once again have to play catch-up. More good qualifying for Akira, who starts again in second. His closest points rival, the winner of the previous race, Stephanie, will start 8th. So for her it is damage limitation and maybe hoping that Gina can somehow keep Akira behind her. But I wouldn't be holding out hope. And Thomas starts in 6th, right in between the 2 drivers that just finished ahead of him. Gina gets off much better than Akira. Akira spun the tires a lot, but his car's got much more horsepower than that tuned RX-7, so he doesn't lose too much ground. Thomas uses his Cobra's blistering acceleration to gain 3 places before he even made it to the turn. Thrasher does more or less the same if he can complete the move on Natsuki and her Celica. Which, now that he has the inside line, Cobra or not, I think he should still manage that. And yes. And we'll get to another one with Isabella kind of being thrown off by Garrison. Riley almost pushing Yoshiro to the sand trap, and Thrasher missing turn 4. But with no real cost to him, because of the fact that he has acceleration on his side. Yoshiro has the inside lane, already down 3 places from where she began, and maybe 4 in a second, unless some sort of miracle happens, but that's a Corvette, so there's not much odds of that. Gina is holding off Akira for the moment, but I don't know how much longer that's going to last. I think as soon as we get to that front straight, unless Gina pulls off a miraculous final section, don't think she'll stand too much hope. As Stephanie is up 3, possibly 4, another overtake on the Cobra driver. The RX-7 marginally better handling than the Supra, being a lighter car, but now we'll get to see the full force of that brutal horsepower on the Time Attack Supra. which was nowhere near as effective as I thought it would be. Riley's put herself in the picture. The Corvette does have the highest top speed, but isn't the best acceleration, so you won't necessarily see it in any of these early on tracks. You might see it at Monza or the Highland Circuit, but you won't see it here. Thomas being a very obstructive car, as Travis escapes and can chase after the lead two cars, who are probably holding each other up a little bit by just kind of being near each other. Riley seizes a moment on Stephanie. However, Thomas being there means neither one can really get much of an advantage unless they go for a pass on him, which is precisely what Stephanie is about to do, and what she just has done. So now they've got two Porsches chasing down the lead two Japanese cars, and then two American cars just kind of gripping on to where they sit. Yoshiro's still somehow holding on to 7th. Thrasher not really making too many inroads at anybody else so far. He does have a point to his name as he sits, and definitely some aggressive braking going on from him, but he'll need more than that to make his way up the leaderboards. Travis is promptly there upon the rear bumper of Akira's car. It's not what he needs to have to deal with right now as he's trying to pass the RX-7 ahead. The Supra's immense horsepower will bail him out of the situation with Travis. Stephanie is distantly a part of that conversation, but not by much. Travis is the fastest car on the track. Riley sees an opportunity against the Cobra, but to no avail. Yoshiro defending vividly against that GTO. A very classic car battle going on if you ignore the Corvette in the middle of it. And unsurprisingly to me, the weak power ratings of the of the Lotus Exige are making this a nightmare of a race for Taylor and for Isabella. Thrasher creates a very wide Cobra to keep his opponents behind him from doing something, but cannot get a lane to use against the Corvette. Darius thought he had an answer for the 911, but almost instead put himself off the road. Oh, it's all coming to a head now. Akira is right there on the RX-7, but Travis is right there on the Supra, as Stephanie observes from a distance. But still nothing doing, and that was pretty much the last chance any driver had because we are currently on the final lap. Stephanie no longer so distant, but the last two corners aren't exactly areas you can pass people in, so shades of Laguna Seca, Gina will hold on to a pole position victory despite their competition from behind. And there's your top four. Riley had nothing for that Cobra, so they'll go in 5-6. Yoshiro somehow holds on to 7th place. Thrasher will score a singular point. And Natsuki once again comes in last. Perhaps the Celica may be the worst car in the category. Akira has seized the points lead by 1 despite not winning the previous race. And it is not terribly close at the front of the grid, as the next nearest opponent is 7 points away from second with Thomas. Natsuki now the only driver with no points. On to Imola. Now we're on the starting grid for Imola, and this is going to be quite interesting, as none of the major championship contenders at this moment start in the points. The bottom four are literally the top four in standings reversed. So the random grid has kind of pulled the equalizer card. With Travis Wild on the pole in his own Porsche, so despite her best efforts, or despite their best efforts, I have a funny feeling that championship deficit is going to get a lot smaller here. There's the Cobra's acceleration, but may not avail him as, well, now we're at a corner where the Exige excels. As Garrison is going to challenge from the lead from starting third, and he's going to take it for the moment. Thrasher and Taylor still side by side.
I like where this is going.
Thrasher's gonna miss the corner and slam into the side of Riley's car, but ultimately keep it on the track. Stephanie locks her brakes on reaction to what is happening ahead, as it is once again a 3-car break-off, and not many other people are nearby enough to do anything about it. Riley is all up in Taylor's business, and other than that, it's pretty much even spread near the front. The bottom of the grid drivers still have yet to make any progress, probably because they keep blocking each other off from doing it. Obviously, as much as they want to score points, they don't want to see anybody else in that part of the championship standings score either. Should see that power difference between the Lotus and the Corvette come into play, and Riley with minimum effort should clear Taylor before we even hit the turn. Well, Thrasher's now under pressure from Schwartz, who passed him pretty easily. And now also from Eric as well. Thrasher's going to cover that line, and nothing will do there. Taylor also took 4th back from Riley. So we're seeing no lack of attempts to make overtakes. They're just not working because of this track's back and forth nature. Lots of double corners here means that while you might be on the inside for a turn, you will then put yourself back on the outside for the next one. The track does go left, right, left, left, right, left for this first 6 turns, so as still none of the leaders have gained any places, or any of the points leaders have gained any places. So I predict the championship standings will pretty much look like they're back where they began. Garrison beginning to cement his lead. Right, we'll try again on Taylor. As if she's smart, she moves up the track before even hitting the turn now that she's so far clear, which she will do. And that will mean that positions have finally changed hands. Natsuki is once again falling down the order. I think she might be a little bit out of her own depth with that car. Yeah, I would probably say so. Yoshiro is sweating up there, and all of that pressure has allowed Thomas to just go right on by. This race isn't necessarily set in stone, but there's not many things that have the capacity of changing drastically in the next lap. And Darius is right there behind Thrasher, but will anything actually come of that? I guess we'll look, because there's not much else to look at right about now. Garrison increases his lead over Travis. And the lack of top speed of that Cobra is going to be the downfall of Thrasher. Quite literally, as he drops another place now to Gemini. The usual two at the bottom of Yoshiro and Natsuki. Natsuki's not even driving that poorly. I think she just really misestimated just how much of a difference that rally kit would make on a car. Those things are built for traction first, cornering speed second, and the power on them isn't much higher than you would find on a default factory car. The factory ST-185s have probably 185 horsepower. But the WRC at that time restricted most cars to under 300 horsepower. So Garrison will take an effortless win with his Corvette. Gino will be the only main points competitor to score a singular point which would mean basically a total switch around for the entire point standings. Akira's still the points leader, still only one over Stephanie, but now Travis Wild is third in points, followed by Garrison, who just won the race. And Riley and Gina still all kind of close to him. Thomas can also take command of the points lead if he gets another good qualifying at the last race of this episode, the Red Bull Ring. Here we are on the starting grid of Red Bull Ring. That's precisely what Stephanie needs. Right on pole. And Akira is down there in 5th. Thomas may be able to limit the amount of time or the amount of places he loses in the championship, but he won't be able to gain much from there either. Travis Wild is an okay spot to maintain, like, within the same closing distance of those other two. But this is pretty much curtains for Gina, and probably so for Riley as well. Although we do have a pretty long race at the Red Bull Ring, so more time for the cars that are actually faster to get near the... Bizarre start for the cars in front of Akira here, as Yoshiro is the one in 2nd. Honestly, it's already Stephanie's race to lose at this point. If she starts so far ahead of anybody that can really compete against her, and this is not helping anybody else's chances of getting to her, as these two cars aren't exactly race-winning vehicles, and they're still going to fight out over 2nd, despite the onslaught of superior automobiles sitting behind them. As Riley's going to send it on Taylor. He'll gain a 2nd place on the first lap. Thrasher's acceleration helped him to gain 2 additional places off the start. Travis isn't quite doing enough to keep himself relevant in the championship fight. Akira's getting awfully bold trying something here. He's gonna commit. He only swam into the Cobra twice and still produced no positions. Natsuki is already almost in last. You poor thing. This is why you should have just driven a Supra, but no, you have to be all adamantly against against doing that. So to be honest, in a way, you kind of did that to yourself. Right, you should take another place there. Thrasher looked at a move on Akira, but there was nothing there to take. GTO's not nearly as slow as the 4Cs, so it'll be a difficult overtake for Thomas, or whoever gets to him next. Chairman will take another place, this time from Yoshiro. And Yoshiro missing the corner is going to allow Dedrick to try the same thing, and pretty easily succeed, no less. So there's no hope for anybody taking the win other than Stephanie here. She's got like probably a 6-second lead at this point, as her vehicle is on a different planet from her opposition, helped by, you know, having the safeguard of Eric behind her. Thomas has had enough. He's gonna try right here, right now, but there's nothing. All there is if Eric misses a little bit, but his old suspension bounced him around, and he therefore had nothing for him. But he's still got plenty more corners to go. But the AI just keep confusing each other. Eric can't really pick a lane too well. Instead, it's Akira that'll try on the outside line. That Cobra's acceleration is going to make it tough. As Thrasher watches from a not-so-distant distance. Akira brakes aggressively and is clear. Gemini is up a place again now on Riley as well. That didn't quite see that coming. Now he's going to try another one for Travis. Darius is on a tear in this race, but the outside of that corner is a death wish, so nothing. As now Akira will seek to try and find a pass on this Ferrari. Tried the same thing he tried on Thomas earlier, but this time there's just nothing there. He let off too early. Probably smarter that he waits anyway. All the top speed and power advantage over that Ferrari will make this pretty much simple. Should anyway. Darius tries again on Travis, but nothing. Akira still no answer for the GTO. Eric is the master of defense, it seems, and despite the fact that he's got an angry mob of cars behind him, Thomas gets around Akira. Can he finish it and take Eric as well? Someone may finally get around the man. Depends on how daring Eric is into this turn 3. Quite. Despite the fact that he's not known as an extreme driver, he doesn't have much of a choice here. The acceleration is going to get Thomas finally clear of that Ferrari. Darius still making constant attempts at Travis for 6th, but keeps picking the wrong lines, and as such can never get the move done. Riley has also been passed by Dedrick. This is definitely an acceleration track, and the Corvette's torque curve is more high RPM, meaning it doesn't quite have the acceleration of its rivals. It is through and through a top speed cars. Akira almost thought once again to send it into these two corners, which aren't really passing areas by any stretch. Gina has done her best to salvage any amount of points, but I don't think it's on the cards here. Not from where she started, no. Nurture and Isabella are fighting for 13th. Honestly, at this point, they're just fighting for sport more than anything else. At least they're keeping Natsuki Company down here in last. Kira has the chance. Thrasher observing obstinately as Eric holds on the outside. Gemini had to defend from Dedrick, and he will do so. So he cannot pass the one Porsche, but he won't be passed by the other either. An absolutely crushing victory here for Stephanie. That might be a record victory margin right there. Akira finally made a desperate move on Eric to take third away from him at the last second, but... And so did... Okay, what the heck happened there? We'll watch from Eric's point of view the last section of corners. Kira tries his signature attempt at these two corners. This time, though, he actually makes it. And sticks it all the way through. Being shoved so far out, Thrasher also takes advantage. And then it's a race to the line, which Thrasher will end up winning that. So Thrasher will actually take third, I think. By just over a tenth, he will steal third from Akira. Also quite a day for Gemini / Darius, who ends up in 6th, despite where he started. Down in 11th. And the same for Schwartz, who ends up 8th, despite starting in 12th. Look at the point standings once more as we cap off this episode of the Challenge Series. Stephanie, unsurprisingly, is your points leader, ahead by 4. There's 6 more between Akira and Thomas, but it's only 1 between Thomas and Travis. However, from there below, it is pre-set as to who is where. Like, we have the top 4 drivers, but without some crazy event happening where, like, Riley might win and Stephanie and Akira don't do anything, I think it's only going to be between those 4 drivers for this championship. Oh, I did this again. Crap. Next time we'll have possibly the longest race, because this short Black Cat County really isn't all that short. And yet this one will be the shortest episode because this one is super long, or super not long. I thought it would be.